Their Sunday was our Monday, the first day of the week. The day you're never quite ready for or rested enough for. The day that sometimes feels a little like a slap to the face. Although that makes it seem like the day comes as a surprise comes, which it doesn't. The day it rolls around with a relentless inevitability. You know exactly what you're going to get when you wake up Monday morning, which is why you're maybe familiar with the phenomenon we call the Sunday scaries, the anticipatory dread of all that awaits you when the alarm goes off, the rushing and the routine, the rat race. Maybe back then they called it the Saturday scaries. And maybe these two men were not strangers to that sinking feeling or to that stress. And maybe they were walking back from work. From work they'd headed off to before the sun had risen and would make it home from just after it had set. There is no record of any village called Emmaus ever existing, which might be the Bible's way of saying that these two men were going nowhere. Were going nowhere in their lives. Maybe they did not find their work or how they spent their days. Maybe they didn't find it especially fulfilling. Maybe they didn't like their jobs and talked about spending their days doing something else, but didn't really have the energy to do more than complain and be unhappy. It does take a lot of energy to be unhappy. But maybe they kept asking themselves, Cleopas from Accounts Payable and whatever the other guy's name was, maybe they kept asking themselves, what am I doing with my life? Probably what they expected on this first day of the week was the same old, a case of the Sundays, getting through it, grinding it out, and then lather, rinse, repeat. Probably it never occurred to them that something life-changingly, life-givingly good would happen and happen to them. Probably they never imagined that the ordinary day they would drag themselves through might actually be a kind of divine encounter, or that they would meet someone who was so much more than a regular old someone, and have a conversation that was so much more than a regular old conversation. When was the last time, as Scripture says it, when was the last time that their hearts had burned within them like this? When was the last time they felt so alive? When they woke up Sunday, which is to say Monday morning, they had no idea that God was going to be a part of their day. That God was going to come as a surprise comes. That God was going to listen. Listen as they told him about their worry and about their sadness. Listen as they told him about these things which they never told anyone. They had no idea that God was going to really listen to them. And that they were going to feel heard in the deepest way they'd ever felt heard. And that they had no idea that God was going to speak to them. That God was going to gently correct them. Now, oh, how foolish you are that doesn't seem so gentle at first. But when God says it, something about his voice makes it sound more like, we'll figure this out together. If you have ever had someone who radiated love and care help you see that you've been so wrong about something, you've been so foolish, and if you have ever been heartbroken by that realization, but also felt sort of happy at the same time because you knew you didn't have to be defensive anymore or dishonest anymore, because it takes a lot of energy to go on being wrong. If you've ever had someone challenge you to change, you know how good a thing it is. But it isn't just that they were not expecting this to happen to them. They didn't know. In the moment, they didn't know it was happening to them. They didn't know that God was happening to them. They didn't know that somehow God was happening within them and between them and all around them. They didn't know what was going on when God was what was going on. And you kind of have to wonder, how many other Sundays that were Mondays had God appeared to them? How many other afternoons had God come walking up alongside them on the road and said hello? How many times had they missed it? How many other conversations had they had without knowing it was God they were talking to? Maybe, probably, more often than not, when God comes to us as another person. He comes to us in another person. It could be a stranger. It could be someone we've never met before. But it could just as well be someone we love or someone we hate. We won't know that it's God. That it's God there, lending an ear. That it's God trying to tell us something we need to hear but don't want to hear. But it's God. There is no day that is not, so to speak, the Lord's day. God is in every good day. God is in every bad day. Again, we might not, and if the story is to be believed, actually we will not recognize God in the ordinary moments, in the walking along, in the routine, in the annoyances, in the boredom, in the quiet unhappiness. But we can expect what they didn't think to expect. And we can do what they then went on to do, but do it knowingly and do it hopefully. We can ask the God we aren't actually yet aware of being with us to be with us still and to stay with us as the evening comes. Because it was only as the sun was setting that the two men's eyes were opened, that they were given the gift of sight. It was only when day was done that they could see how full of God their day truly was. The book of Genesis speaks of God walking in our world at the time of the evening breeze. Dusk is God's favorite time of day. It's when God lets himself be known. Because some things we can only see by soft light. There is an understanding that only comes in the evening. Miracles often only reveal themselves to be miracles under the cover of darkness. And blessings hide in the shadows. So every day, we can, and we should, end our day by going back through our day and asking ourselves what we've missed. When and where and how and in whom did God come to us without our knowing it? The Irish philosopher and priest and poet, some of you may know him, John O'Donoghue, he has a poem that it doesn't read much like a poem. It's called At the End of the Day, a Mirror of Questions. It's just what it sounds like. It's a litany, a list of questions to ask yourself as you break bread at the dinner table or as you lie in bed. Questions that work to set your eyes scanning for the God hidden in that day's happenings. And I love that image of a mirror of questions. When I ask myself these questions, it's kind of like when I'm at the barber, and after he's finished with the haircut, he shows me the back of my head by holding a small mirror behind me so I can see it reflected in the mirror before me. A mirror in a mirror. That's what these questions have been to me. They help me see God behind me. They help me see God moving in what has been. I don't ask myself all of them every day, but a few of them, I really cherish the questions. Maybe if you end your days with them or with some of them, maybe if you make a practice and a little ritual of ending your days with them, they will do that for you too. They're beautiful questions, some unusual questions, searching questions, questions that if you ask them enough might reveal pain and longings and joy in need of revealing. The poem reads, "Where did my eyes linger today? And where was I blind? Where was I hurt without anyone noticing? What did I learn today? What new thoughts visited me? What differences did I notice in those closest to me? Whom did I neglect? Where did I neglect myself? What did I begin today that might endure? How were my conversations?" I really love that one. It's such an interesting question. How were my conversations? What was the quality of the conversations I had? What did I do today for the poor and the excluded? Where could I have exposed myself to the risk of something different? Where did I allow myself to receive love? With whom today did I feel most myself? What reached me today, and how deeply did it imprint? Who really saw me today? What visitations did I have from the past and from the future? What did I avoid today? From the evidence, why was I given this day? In gratitude for the gift of this day and every day, and for the one who shares them with us, the morning's offering will be given and received.